in life, we need three things. We need shelter, a roof over our head, we need warmth, and we need food in our belly.
Earlier this year, I turned 40 and I wanted to do something meaningful alongside all the celebrating. I decided to ask my community to support me in helping an underprivileged community and give them a small yet transformative boost. This is how the Rainbow Boosters project was born. In sharing the idea with people, I realised that we all know of a teacher, a family member, a friend, an author or a singer that has made a profound impact on our life. I wanted to create a space where we could share those stories. Welcome to the Rays of Sunshine series. On this episode, I'm thrilled to welcome Neel Radia to the series. Neel is a family friend who I've had the privilege of witnessing his incredible service to others over the years. Neel works within the hospitality industry and is the founder of Cakes for Kindness CIC, a social enterprise working towards alleviating social isolation and loneliness amongst those experiencing homelessness through the distribution of cake. Neel also spearheads the vital awareness campaign on Meals on Wheels on behalf of the National Association of Care Catering, where he served as the national chair from 2013 to 2019. Neel has passionately championed the protection of Meals on Wheels services that includes lunch clubs and has supported several other charities who provide. Can you tell us who was your ray of sunshine? Who was the person or teacher that has had the biggest impact on your life, and how did they help shape your future?
Do you know what? I found this question really hard. I've kind of like throughout my life, I've met so many different people for different aspects of my life that I found inspirational. And it's to pinpoint just one, it's going to be it's really difficult task for me to do. I think from my side, I have to then take it back to my beginnings, like when you're growing up. And I think for me, probably the most inspirational. And to be honest with you, British, actually, at the time when it was happening, I didn't really, I suppose like a lot of people, a lot of children, you don't appreciate this right at the beginning, right? But for me, it's my parents.
Yeah.
You know, I think, a lot of the values that I possess, that what I hold here, what has been taught to me, leading by example, you pick that from your parents, and at the time when I was growing up, and you're running around and you're being mischievous and playing around and so forth, you don't really appreciate it. But it's actually when you go through life that actually you think, actually, dad taught me that, or mum taught me that, or
Yeah.
And you live by your values of your parents. So I think even though I don't have one specific, I think for me, what's helped build my foundations as an individual is my parents. And so they're my two little inspirations.
It's so easy to look outwards with that question and think about external forces, but our parents essentially shape and mold us from the very beginning. And I know your parents really well, and I know how lucky you are to have them. And the day that we're recording this is also your dad's birthday, so it's also apt that we include him in that. And look, reading your bio as well, and at the top of the show, I introduced you and shared that. It's super impressive, and knowing you, I know a lot of that values and work has come from the teachings of your parents or the guidance that they've given you, the values that they instilled. Rays of Sunshine is associated with the Rainbow Boosters campaign, where I'm asking my community to help others to close the digital divide. And that's through creating computer labs and infrastructure that will give them access to give them a small boost in this digital age. When I started to talk about this idea, people asked me why I was focusing on the tech side of things rather than things like homelessness or health. And I said, it's because personally, I've seen firsthand the impact of technology on lives and the communities that it impacts. And it's something that I'm passionate about. When I read through the work and see the work that you've done over the last 20 years, you've dedicated yourself to food-related service. Where did this come from, and why is food your focus area?
Interesting and a really good question to ask me, actually. I think it goes back to my youth again, growing up. Food has always been a central point in any occasion in the home. Being brought up, from an Indian Gujarati culture, you've got weddings, you've got birthdays, you've got, people just popping over for a cup of tea, get full-blown food, put in front of them as well, with an expectation to eat it. I think food's I've grown up with food, our culture, our values, from dad's side as well. Dad's hobby has been to cook, and he's built a successful business from that. Why I do the work I do with the charities and other organisations around food is something that my grandmother taught me actually. And she said to me, in life, we need three things. We need shelter, a roof over our head, we need warmth, and we need food in our belly. They're your survival, right? That's your core basics that you need for existence.
Yeah.
I think from my side, I've been really fortunate that I've had all three of those and the love added in there. You've got that fourth element there as well.
Yeah.
And like when we were growing up, we saw quite a lot of poverty in the world as well. We went back to India, where my grandparents were born. Been to Kenya, where my parents were born, and seeing the immense poverty around. And I just felt, whilst growing up, I've always just had this fascination around food, and not only from a nutritional point of view, but also from a holistic point of view, and how food brings people together, and the nostalgia side of it and everything else. It's always really intrigued me, and I've always said to myself, like from an early age, that look, if you can help one person, if whatever you're doing, if you're working with charity, whatever, even if you're helping one person, making sure they get a meal in their belly, then for me, I'm happy with that. I'm content with that. And I think that's where it all came from, Pradesh, just the values that I've been brought up with. My grandmother, I remember what my grandmother says, and I remember where she said it as well. It's just stuck with me in my heart, stuck with me in my mind. And that's why I do so much with like marginalised communities. It's not only the homeless, do a lot of work around older people, around Meals on Wheels, community meals. So that's where it all comes from, really.
I think it's fascinating because I've spoken to a few people on this series now, and some of the biggest impacts in their own lives have come from a small conversation or a comment from someone that means a lot to them, and they can relive that moment in any given moment. They can be in the room where they had that comment and remember how they felt. And you take that little bit of advice that your gran gave you and look at your 20-year career in this space on top of everything else that you do, and you can see how much of a profound impact it's had, and that philosophy of helping one person and pushing them through is really baked into what we're trying to do as well. So it's lovely to hear, and I always love hearing grandparent stories because they're just the epitome of love and warmth, but they're so informative, and they give so much guidance in how they shape our future. So thank you for sharing that. Talking a little bit more around the privilege of seeing and traveling to places like Kenya and India and seeing the other side, which if you don't have the option to travel, you see a lot of that through the press and the media. So seeing that firsthand has an impact. But how do you feel that things like access to the internet and technology can transform the lives of underprivileged, marginalized communities and children?
I think it's a huge transformation for younger people. So, I'm going to take this conversation a little bit away from, the work you're doing. The project I started with Cake for Kindness, again, just a small project, something for me to give back. And it started over the COVID period, when at the start of COVID, you may remember, we were all in the dark. We didn't know what was going on. We were just told to stay at home, not leave the house. There was a bug around, and we didn't understand the seriousness of it. But what stopped us from being isolated during that time is having the communications available, which kept us informed, which allowed us to see what's happening, understand what's happening, do our own research on it,
Yeah.
on, computers, on TV, radio, and it stopped us feeling isolated from the world.
Yeah.
And with the Cake for Kindness project, it was kind of based on that, got me thinking, actually, what if you're homeless and you don't have access to technology, you don't have access to a phone or a computer,
Yeah.
you're sleeping underneath a bus shelter, and all of a sudden, it's a busy street you're on, and all of a sudden there's nobody around
Yeah.
to tell you what's going on. You feel lost. So that's the reason I started doing the work with Cape Palace. But then again, if you look at that same technology concept for children in India, the work you're doing about getting the computer labs together, it's the same principle, isn't it? Because by doing so, you're giving that child or that classroom of children the opportunity of exploring what's out there, using technology to learn. We saw over the last 3 years how much technology can support you with your education, online learning, training, doing what we're doing right now, having a conversation. And, we saw over COVID how it helped communicate with loved ones who
Yeah.
may be in a different country. And I think it's really important. We're living in a time where it's not going to go away, technology,
Yeah.
and the only way to the only way to learn, the only way for the next generation to move forward is having that accessibility
Yeah.
to technology to learn. So yeah, I think it's really highly important. And I just look at my own nephews, how advanced they are when it comes to technology. I think in this day and age, it's really important, Pradesh. I remember a time where we didn't have computers. I'm not old enough to remember that.
Same.
And we've learned how to use it and how to
Yeah.
appreciate it, and giving children who don't have that opportunity, who may not have a computer at home, that we're fortunate to have, and giving that access will allow them to progress and move forward in their chosen careers,
Yeah.
and in life in general.
When you talk about your Cakes for Kindness charity, I just reminded how much of a ray of sunshine you must have been in that period of time. The premise for Rainbow Boosters is that there are people who live under dark clouds and they don't know how to get out of it. And the way you articulated that the pandemic for so many was, especially in those early days when it was such an unknown, was such a grey period for people. And within that whole time, there's so many rays of sunshine that did something small, did something that just got them out or helped somebody else. I also had crazy flashbacks to all of the family quizzes that we all did in that time as well, just to keep ourselves sane. And you just reminded me how much of a ray of sunshine you really are to so many people. So thank you for sharing that. Finally, I'm ending these series on the same question. Can you share one positive message or a quote that has inspired you throughout your life and continues to motivate you?
Yeah, so quite an interesting one again, because there's so many different quotes that that get me going. I think that for my side, if there's one specific, is venture outside your comfort zone. The rewards are worth it, and I'm a bit of a Disney fan, as you probably may have guessed,
Yeah.
and that's from a Disney film, actually, Rapunzel,
Okay.
Tangled. Yeah, so venture outside your comfort zone. The rewards are worth it. Um, I think sometimes we all come to a position in life where we're scared of doing something because we've not done it before. It's an unknown, and if I can give any inspirational quote, that would be it, because I think sometimes it's actually what's beyond that comfort zone.
Yeah. The other
That's
side of fear.
that's the real prize, because you're taking yourself as an individual out of what's that safety zone. So yeah,
Yeah. I love
venture
that.
outside. Yeah, it's a really nice quote, and it's a really nice thing that I say to myself if I'm doing something that is going to, scare me.
Thank you so much, Neel. I just wanted to say thanks for sharing your time and your quotes and your stories with us. This Raise the Sunshine series is linked to the Rainbow Boosters project, where we're supporting underprivileged children by connecting them to the internet and the communities to make sure that they don't get left behind in a digital world. So check out more at rainbowboosters.com, and all the links are in the comments below. And the next episode will be with you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.